Facing a midlife crisis? Find courage in everyday women's stories. Subscribe to Resilient Women Rising.
How a 50-year-old widow rediscovered her inner fire, the shattered reflections. On a cool autumn morning, Evelyn Sinclair awoke to a silence that felt heavier than usual. The large, creaking house she had shared with her late husband, Daniel, now echoed with memories and the soft sound of her own footsteps. At 50, Evelyn had spent the past 5 years trying to rebuild a semblance of normality after losing Daniel in a sudden, accidental loss that had shattered not only her heart, but also her once unshakable confidence. That morning, as golden leaves danced outside the window, Evelyn discovered an envelope tucked away in an old desk drawer. Its cream-colored paper was embossed with her name in an elegant script she did not recognize. The envelope, sealed with wax, immediately stirred a sense of foreboding mixed with curiosity. Hesitantly, she broke the seal and unfolded a single sheet of letter. Evelyn, if you are reading this, know that the past holds secrets that can no longer be hidden. In the old manor by the sea, beneath the watchful gaze of twilight, you will find the truth. A friend, the message sent a shiver down her spine. Daniel's secrets? A friend? For years, Evelyn had clung to memories of a gentle, devoted husband. Yet in the quiet recesses of her mind, there were whispers of inconsistencies, moments when Daniel had seemed distant, guarded, even secretive. Now, the letter hinted at a hidden chapter of his life, one that could explain the unexplained absences and hushed phone calls, the furtive glances when he thought she wasn't looking. Unable to shake the feeling that her past was calling her, Evelyn felt the weight of a choice pressing down upon her. Could she be brave enough to confront these buried truths? The thought of opening old wounds terrified her, yet the promise of understanding Daniel's hidden self and perhaps discovering her own strength ignited a spark deep within her. That very afternoon, with her heart pounding, Evelyn packed a small bag and drove to the coastal town where the old manor stood. The journey was a blur of rain-washed roads and stormy skies. Every mile felt like a step closer to answers, and to a part of her life she had long kept locked away. The manor loomed before her as twilight descended, a once grand building now cloaked in ivy and mystery. The wind whispered through the broken windows as Evelyn approached the weathered front door. With trembling fingers, she inserted the key she had found taped under the letter, a detail that had not been mentioned in the note into the lock. The door creaked open, revealing a foyer bathed in the fading light of dusk. Inside, the manor was a time capsule of a bygone era. Faded portraits lined the walls. Heavy drapes blocked out the chill of the night, and a grand staircase ascended into darkness. As she moved deeper into the silence, every step echoed like a heartbeat, urging her forward. In a dusty parlor beneath a cracked chandelier lay a battered leather journal with Daniel's initials embossed on the cover. With hesitant reverence, Evelyn opened the journal. Its pages were filled with Daniel's neat, deliberate scripta record of moments both tender and tormented. The entries recounted the early days of their love, moments of pure joy intermingled with cryptic hints of a burden he carried alone. One entry in particular caught her eye. I have long hidden a truth that I fear will shatter the life we've built. There exists a past that I never spoke of, a secret that threatens to consume me. Yet, for Evelyn's sake, I must protect her from the darkness that once nearly engulfed my soul. Evelyn's hands trembled. The words were both a confession and a plea, a silent admission of hidden pain and danger. Who was this secret meant to shield her from? And what darkness had Daniel feared? Her thoughts were interrupted by a sudden sound, a soft thud from upstairs. Heart racing, Evelyn closed the journal and crept up the creaking stairs. In the dim corridor, she caught sight of a shadow moving past a half-open door. "Hello?" she called out, voice echoing in the silence. A man emerged, his face partially hidden by a wide-brimmed hat. His eyes were deep and knowing, and his presence exuded an air of quiet authority. "Evelyn Sinclair?" he asked in a hushed tone. She nodded, swallowing hard. "Who are you?" "My name is Thomas," he replied, stepping into the weak light. "I was once a friend of Daniel's, a friend who knew more about his past than he ever let on. I've been sent here, or perhaps I came here of my own accord to ensure you learn the truth." Evelyn's heart pounded as Thomas continued. "I understand you have questions. questions about the man you loved and the life you thought you knew. There are secrets in this house, Evelyn, secrets that Daniel left behind for you to find. But be warned, the truth may not bring the closure you expect. It may even change you forever. Before Evelyn could respond, a sudden crash echoed from the far end of the manor, as if something had fallen. Thomas's eyes darkened. "We must be cautious," he murmured. "There are forces that would rather keep these secrets buried." Evelyn, caught between fear and a desperate need for answers, resolved to follow Thomas. Together, they stepped deeper into the labyrinth of the manor, where each creaking floorboard and flickering light promised revelations that could either mend her shattered heart or expose it to even greater pain. As they reached a sealed door marked only with an ancient crest, Thomas paused and whispered, "Beyond here lies the truth about Daniel Land, about the darkness he fought. Are you ready to face what awaits?" Evelyn took a steadying breath as Thomas produced a small, ornate key from his pocket. With a trembling hand, she inserted it into the lock of the heavy door. The key turned slowly, and the door creaked open to reveal a hidden study, untouched by time. Dust motes danced in the pale moonlight that streamed through a single high window, illuminating rows of leather-bound books, antique maps, and scattered papers. At the center of the study stood a large oak desk upon which lay several sealed envelopes and a faded photograph of Daniel with a mysterious woman, her eyes filled with sorrow and determination. The woman's identity was not immediately clear, but the intensity of her gaze suggested a story of passion and pain. Thomas gestured toward the desk. "These are the remnants of Daniel's secret life," he said softly. "Within these letters and documents lie clues to a past he tried to bury, a past filled with betrayal, danger, and ultimately, sacrifice." Evelyn hesitated before reaching for one of the envelopes. The paper was brittle with age, and as she unfolded it, the faded ink revealed a letter dated 25 years ago. The letter was addressed to my dearest, and it began, "I am writing this in the depths of a night that knows no end. My heart is heavy with the weight of secrets and decisions that have led me down a perilous path. I fear that if these words ever reach you, it may be too late to undo the damage. Yet, I must confess, I was once entangled with a woman whose love burned like a wildfire, one that consumed all in its wake. But that love, so fierce and forbidden, has cost me everything." Evelyn's eyes stung with tears as she read on. The letter described a clandestine affair with a woman named Marianea, name Evelyn had never heard before in connection with Daniel. According to the letter, Marianne had been more than just a lover, she had been a confidant, a partner in a dangerous endeavor that involved illicit financial schemes and secret alliances with influential figures from the underworld. Thomas interjected quietly. Daniel was forced into a life that he never imagined, a life where love and loyalty were sacrificed on the altar of survival. Marianne was his undoing, but she was also the one who gave him hope. In his final days, he tried desperately to protect you from the fallout of those choices. The revelation sent a jolt through Evelyn's soul. How could the man she had loved so deeply harbor such a hidden past? And who was Marianne? The discovery of a secret lover, combined with the mysterious darkness that Thomas had hinted at, only deepened the mystery of Daniel's true self. In another envelope, Evelyn found a series of photographs depicting clandestine meetings in darkened alleys, luxurious hotel lobbies, and a rundown warehouse on the edge of the city. One photo in particular stood out, a snapshot of Daniel and Marianne embracing passionately under the glow of neon lights. Their expressions were a mix of longing and despair, as if they both knew that their forbidden love was doomed from the start. As Evelyn absorbed these painful truths, a heavy silence settled over the study. Thomas, sensing her turmoil, placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "I know this is hard to bear," he said, "but understanding Daniel's past is the first step toward reclaiming your own future. There are parts of this story yet to be told, a final secret that Daniel guarded until the very end." Thomas then pulled out a small, intricately carved wooden box from beneath a stack of faded blueprints. He opened it slowly, revealing a delicate silver locket with a small portrait inside. Evelyn's breath hitched when she saw that the portrait was of Marianne, her eyes filled with both love and sorrow, mirroring the depths of the secret Daniel had tried to hide. The locket, Thomas explained, was Daniel's final gift to here, a token of his regret and a symbol of the redemption he sought even as he teetered on the edge of self-destruction. He hoped that by leaving you this, you might one day understand the sacrifices he made, Thomas murmured. But it also carries a warning. The path to truth is fraught with pain, yet it is the only way to free yourself from the chains of the past. Overwhelmed by a surge of conflicting emotions, heartbreak, anger, and a desperate longing for closure, Evelyn clutched the locket to her chest. I must know everything, she whispered, determination glinting in her eyes. No matter how painful, I need to see the truth. Thomas nodded solemnly. Then we must journey deeper into the shadows of his past, he said. There is one final piece of document hidden within the manor's old archives. It will reveal the true nature of Daniel's involvement with Marianne and the dangerous organization that forced him into a life of secrets. Before they could leave the study, a sudden rumble echoed through the menorah sound like distant thunder. Though the skies outside were clear, the floor trembled beneath their feet. Thomas's face grew grim. We're not alone, he warned. There are those who will do anything to keep these secrets buried. As the tremors subsided, a heavy knock resounded at the study's door. Thomas and Evelyn exchanged anxious glances. Who could be at the door, and what part did they play in this labyrinth of deceit? Evelyn and Thomas approached the study's door with caution. Thomas, peering through the peephole, whispered, "It's a courier man in a dark coat." He quickly unlocked the door to reveal a nervous-looking young man clutching a worn leather satchel. "I'm here on behalf of someone who knew Daniel," the courier stammered. "I was instructed to deliver this." He extended a small sealed envelope before darting away into the night. Evelyn's hands shook as she opened the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper bearing a cryptic message. In the depths of the archives lies the truth. Seek the ledger hidden behind the portrait of a forgotten queen. The key to your redemption is written in its pages. Thomas's eyes narrowed. The archives, Daniel kept meticulous records of everything, his business dealings, his secret meetings. If we can locate this ledger, it may finally unveil the full extent of his involvement with Marianne and the Shadow Organization. With renewed urgency, Evelyn and Thomas made their way to the manor's basement, a vast, dimly lit archive filled with old records, dusty ledgers, and forgotten relics of a life once lived. The air was thick with the scent of old paper and memories, and every step they took seemed to echo with the weight of unspoken secrets. They searched among countless shelves and filing cabinets, guided by the faded instructions from the courier's note. Finally, in a secluded corner behind a tattered portrait of a regal woman draped in an ancient gown, Thomas discovered a hidden compartment. With trembling fingers, he retrieved a weathered ledger bound in cracked leather. Evelyn opened the ledger, its yellowed pages filled with meticulous entries, documenting transactions, meetings, and coded references that only Daniel could understand. As she pored over the ledger, her eyes widened at a series of entries that mentioned Marianne repeatedly, entries that detailed clandestine meetings, large sums of money, and even cryptic references to the redemption fund. One entry, dated just weeks before Daniel's death, read, "Marianne, our love is a curse and a blessing. I have secured the fund to shield Evelyn from the wrath of our enemies. May our sins be forgiven in time. D." Evelyn's heart clenched at the realization that Daniel had been entangled in something far more dangerous than she had ever imagined. His involvement with Marianne wasn't merely a hidden affair, it was part of a complex, high-stakes operation that threatened both their lives. Thomas traced more entries in the ledger. There are mentions of meetings in foreign cities, coded references to individuals, known only by initials, and even notes on payments made in cash and under-the-table transfers. He explained, "It seems Daniel was coerced into laundering money for a powerful organization, a network that used love and loyalty as weapons to control those caught in its web." Evelyn's mind reeled with the magnitude of it all. The man she had loved, the husband she had mourned, had lived a double life, a life filled with dangerous secrets and moral compromises. Yet, as she looked down at the ledger, she also saw evidence of his desperate attempts to protect her. The redemption fund mentioned in the entry was a promise that he had made, a promise to shield her from the full fallout of his actions. In the silence of the basement, a single tear rolled down Evelyn's cheek. "He did all of this for me," she murmured, her voice a mix of sorrow and awe. Before they could digest the ledger's revelations, the basement door slammed open with a force that echoed through the archive. In strode a woman with piercing blue eyes and a determined stride. She wore a tailored coat and carried an air of authority that immediately commanded attention. "I am Cassandra," the woman declared, her voice firm and unyielding. "I was once Daniel's business partner, and I know the full extent of what you've uncovered." Cassandra's presence was both intimidating and reassuring. "You must understand," she continued. "Daniel was caught in a web of deceit spun by those who thrive on secrets. He tried to extricate himself from it all, but sometimes the past refuses to let go." Evelyn steadied herself, clutching the ledger and the silver locket that Thomas had given her earlier. "I need to know everything," she said resolutely. "I deserve to understand who he was and why he made those choices." Cassandra nodded. "Then follow me. There is one more piece of the puzzle hidden within the Manor's study, a final document that explains the redemption fund and the true nature of our enemy. But be warned, what you learn may shatter the illusions you have held dear." The three of them ascended from the dark archive back into the study. Cassandra led them to a hidden compartment behind a heavy velvet curtain. Inside lay a sealed briefcase, its surface embossed with a symbol, a stylized phoenix rising from ashes. With careful deliberation, Cassandra opened the briefcase and withdrew a thick envelope filled with documents, photographs, and a final handwritten note by Daniel. The note read, "Evelyn, my love, I know you will someday read these words. I made mistakes, choices born of desperation and fear. I set up the redemption fund, not just to save you, but to atone for the sins of my past. I was trapped by an organization that uses secrets as currency, and I paid dearly for my freedom. Marianne was my greatest love and my deepest regret. If you choose to forgive me, know that every sacrifice I made was with the hope of one day granting you the truth and the strength to live without shadows. Love always, Daniel." As Evelyn absorbed the final confession, the room fell silent. The pieces of Daniel's hidden life were now laid bare: a secret lover, a shadowy organization, and a redemption fund meant to protect her from the collateral damage of his sins. The weight of it all pressed on her, yet a small spark of understanding and determination began to glow within her. At that moment, the sound of approaching sirens outside the manor shattered the stillness. Cassandra's eyes widened. "They're here," she whispered urgently. "We must live now. If you truly want the truth, you must follow me." The night erupted into chaos as the distant wail of sirens grew louder. Cassandra quickly gathered the documents and placed them into a secure envelope. "We need to get out before they breach the manor," she urged. "These documents are evidence that many would kill to keep hidden." Evelyn, clutching the silver locket and the ledger, felt a surge of adrenaline and fear. "Who is coming?" she asked, her voice trembling with urgency. Cassandra's expression hardened. "The organization that once held Daniel in its grip is relentless. They have agents everywhere, and they will stop at nothing to silence anyone who dares expose their secrets." Thomas, who had been silent until now, added, "We must leave immediately. I have a safe house not far from here. It's the only place we can regroup and plan our next move." The trio hurried through the labyrinthine corridors of the manor, every creak and distant thump heightening their sense of impending danger. As they stepped out into the stormy night, Evelyn glanced back at the manor, its dark silhouette, a stark reminder of the secrets it harbored and the love that had cost so dearly. They piled into a waiting car and sped along winding coastal roads. The rain battered the windows, merging with the sound of sirens that echoed in the distance. In the tense silence of the vehicle, Evelyn's mind raced. Every revelation about Daniel's hidden past collided with memories of a love that had once been pure. Now, the truth was a double-edged sword, a painful legacy that threatened to consume her even as it promised freedom. Hours later, the car pulled into a secluded driveway hidden among dense trees. The safe house was a modest cottage surrounded by a high stone wall and a neglected garden. Inside, the atmosphere was somber but secure. Over hot tea, Cassandra, Thomas, and Evelyn laid out the documents and began to piece together the final narrative. Evelyn's hands shook as she reread Daniel's note. "He wanted me to know everything to understand why he did what he did," she said softly. I feel betrayed, yet somehow I also feel the depth of his sacrifice. Cassandra spoke gently. Daniel was a man caught between two worlds. On one side was the life we all knew, a life of love and honor. On the other was a dark underbelly of greed, power, and corruption. He tried to break free, to protect you from that darkness, even if it meant shouldering unbearable burdens. Thomas added, "The redemption fund he set up is more than just money, Evelyn. It's a testament to his remorse and his hope that you could rebuild your life without being haunted by his sins." Evelyn looked down at the locket resting in her palm, feeling its cool weight. "I never knew him as a man of secrets," she murmured. "But now I see that even in his darkest moments, he loved me enough to try and save me from the consequences of his actions." The safe house provided a fragile sanctuary as they planned their next steps. Evelyn resolved to honor Daniel's memory by using the redemption fund to create a new, future womb that would rise from the ashes of betrayal and transform the painful past into a beacon of hope. But before she could begin to rebuild, there was one more mystery to resolve: the true identity of Marianne and her fate, which might also hold the key to finally understanding Daniel's ultimate sacrifice. Late that night, as the storm raged outside, Cassandra and Thomas left Evelyn to rest, promising to return with more information about Marianne. Evelyn sat by a window. The documents spread before her and allowed herself a moment of vulnerability. The past was a tapestry of shattered reflections and hidden truths, but in its fragments, she found a spark, an invitation to rediscover the strength that lay dormant within her. Just as Evelyn began to feel a glimmer of hope, the sound of footsteps on the gravel outside alerted her. She rose, heart pounding, and moved to the window. In the pale light of a flash, she saw a figure approaching, a figure whose silhouette stirred memories of love, loss, and unfinished business. Who was coming to her door? Evelyn opened the door cautiously to reveal a tall woman in a long, dark coat. The stranger's eyes were gentle yet determined, and her presence carried an aura of both mystery and solace. "I'm Marianne," the woman said softly, her voice trembling with both regret and relief. "I've been waiting for you." For a long, suspended moment, Evelyn stared in disbelief. The woman before her was the Marianne of Daniel's secret letters, a woman who had once shared a forbidden love with the man she had adored. Marianne's eyes, filled with sorrow and hope, locked with Evelyn's. "I never meant to cause you pain," she whispered. "I was part of Daniel's world, and I carried the burden of our choices for all these years." Tears welled in Evelyn's eyes as the reality of the past and the present converged. "Why now?" she asked, voice barely audible. "After all this time, why come forward?" Marianne's gaze faltered for a moment before she replied, "Because I've lived with the consequences of our secrets for too long. Daniel left me with a promise to protect you and to make amends for the life we were forced into. I could no longer hide, not when your heart was still searching for the truth. I want to help you understand him and perhaps help you find peace." In the warmth of the safe house, as the storm subsided into a gentle rain, the four of them, Evelyn, Thomas, Cassandra, and Marianne, sat together. The documents, the ledger, and Daniel's final note formed a tapestry of a past riddled with mistakes and sacrifices. In that vulnerable hour, Evelyn listened as Marianne recounted the hidden chapters of Daniel's life, the clandestine meetings, the heartbreak of a love that was both forbidden and fiercely true, and the ultimate decision that had forced him to create a redemption fund in a last desperate bid to free her from the chains of his sins. Marianne spoke of moments when Daniel had nearly broken under the pressure of his double life, of the terror that had driven him to make deals with dangerous men, and of the promise he had made to Hera. Promise that if the truth ever surfaced, she would stand by Evelyn's side and help her reclaim her life. "He loved you," Marianne insisted, in a way that was both imperfect and pure. "He wanted you to know that even in darkness, love can guide you home." As dawn crept through the curtains, painting the sky with hues of pink and gold, Evelyn felt a transformation stirring within her. The pain of betrayal, the shock of hidden lives, and the weight of Daniel's sacrifices all converged to form a bittersweet mosaic. It was a mosaic that, despite its broken fragments, shimmered with the promise of renewal and forgiveness. With Marianne's support and the steadfast presence of Thomas and Cassandra, Evelyn resolved to channel her grief into rebuilding her life, this time on her own terms. The Redemption Fund would be used not only to restore the manor that had once symbolized her lost past, but also to create a community center for women who had suffered betrayal and loss, a place where hope could be rekindled and new beginnings forged. In the weeks that followed, Evelyn set to work. The manor was slowly restored to its former glory, each renovated room a testament to the strength that comes from facing one's demons and emerging wiser. With Marianne's help, Evelyn began to document her journey in a series of memoirs that captured the raw truths of love, betrayal, and redemption. Her words resonated with countless women, transforming her personal pain into a universal message of resilience and second chances. At a grand reopening of the restored menorah celebration attended by old friends, new allies, and strangers whose lives had been touched by her story, Evelyn took to the stage. In a voice both tender and resolute, she shared the tale of Daniel's hidden past, of the sacrifices he had made, and of the truth that had ultimately set her free. "I stand before you not as a victim of a broken past," she declared, "but as a survivor who has learned that even the darkest secrets can lead to the brightest dawns. Every scar is a reminder of our strength, every tear a testament to our resilience. Let us embrace our truths, however painful they may be, and step boldly into the light of a new day." As the crowd erupted into applause, Evelyn felt the weight of years of sorrow lift from her shoulders. In that moment, she understood that redemption was not a destination. It was a lifelong journey, one that was enriched by every heartbreak, every secret, and every act of love that had shaped her existence. Years later, the restored manor became a sanctuary of hope and transformation. The community center that Evelyn established flourished, becoming a haven for women who, like her, had been through storms of betrayal and loss. Marianne, Thomas, and Cassandra remained by her side, their bonds forged in the crucible of shared secrets and redemption. Evelyn's memoirs, which detailed every twist of her journey, from the discovery of the mysterious envelope to the final promise of a new dawn, became a source of inspiration for thousands. In each chapter, she celebrated the strength that had carried her through the darkness and the shattered reflections of her past that had ultimately revealed her true inner fire. In a quiet moment at the center's garden, Evelyn often reflected on the many faces of love and loss. Daniel's memory, though tinged with sorrow, was honored as a reminder that even those who falter in the shadows can leave behind a legacy of light. And as the sun set over the sea, painting the horizon with brilliant strokes of orange and pink, Evelyn knew that her journey, a journey of shattered reflections, transformed into the promise of redemption, was far from over. It was a journey of endless beginnings, where every secret uncovered was a step toward a future filled with hope, strength, and the enduring power of love.